Hi YouTube, this is Darkon633. We're taking a look at another Transformers review. This time we're going to take a little step back and look at the Platinum Edition Combiner Wars Liokaiser. It actually took me quite some time to actually pick up this set due to how expensive the set was, but thanks to Amazon actually having it for a lower price than what I've seen with Entertainment Earth, BBTS, and various other places, I was finally able to pick up this particular set. What's really cool about this set is that this is actually a character, for those who don't know, that has never appeared outside of Japan in any shape or form, so that's really awesome to actually see it in the particular toy line. He might have appeared in the comics, but since I don't exactly follow them too well, I don't really know what's been going on in the standard comics this time for Transformers, but at least in TV media, this is the first time we've ever seen it in any toy form, especially in America, so that's really nice. It is an Entertainment Earth exclusive regardless, so it does still have the sticker there. And it is a part of the Platinum Edition, so it has a little bit more going for it than the standard what we've seen with the regular sets. What's cool is that on the back here, it actually says Destrons, which are actually the Japanese name for the Decepticons in the associated G1 cartoon shows, which includes both Headmasters, Victory, and also going as far as Master Force, and some of the other shows that Japan actually aired, that they considered them Destrons instead of Decepticons that was known in the US. Anyways, we're going to take a look at the box more closely. It does include the character card as standard, but it also includes the poster, like we've seen with Combitron. Shows that it comes with 5 figures and a Arms Micron, meaning that this is the first technical retail release in America of a Arms Micron. We have gotten a few Arms Microns, but those are mostly for the TFCC exclusives, so this is the first technical retail release we've gotten. That's a picture of Liokaiser as normal. Shows the individual components. In the back, it shows the bio and a bigger look at Liokaiser itself, at least in toy form this time, and the individual components. So now we're going to open this up and take a look at the contents inside. Now we're looking at all the vehicle modes after you take all of the figures outside of the box. What's cool about this set is that even though 2 of them are the exact same mold outside of the few parts that are retooled, and 2 of them are aerial bots, at least these 2 are based on 2 different aerial bot molds, and then we have, for some reason, Desaurus as a retool and repaint of Skylink set of all things. We also got, as I mentioned, the Arms Micron, which is pretty cool, named Ion Scythe, so I think that it's pretty cool that we actually see a Arms Micron in a US released toy. Anyways, so now look at each of the individual components, then look at them combined as Liokaiser. So first going to take a look at Felbat, which the original name was Hellbat, which is pretty obvious why Hasbro had to rename the character due to the context of the name. This is actually using the Skydive mold, so outside of it, the various different paint applications, at least in this particular mode, there really isn't anything else different than what we've seen with that particular mold in general. So we're just going to quickly go through the transformation and talk about him in robot mode. Starting out with Felbat, in terms of articulation and design, outside of the head and the various different paint applications and a few minor differences here and there, it's pretty much the same we've seen with the Skydive mold. What's cool is that Felbat, along with some of the other components of Liokaiser, actually have newly molded heads where you actually have to move certain pieces in order to get them fully transformed. And that's a huge difference compared to literally every other figure released in this line, since not a single previous release actually featured that kind of transformation. And I find that really cool. Articulation-wise, as mentioned, it's the same we've seen with Skydive. The wings can flap if you wish to. He does have the ball joints at the shoulders with a good range of movement, and it can break up if you're not careful like that. But you also can move the shoulder outward, swivels at the biceps, single joints at the elbows, but no other articulation points there. The head is on a ball joint with a good range of movement, and you can swivel it 360 and look up and down ever so slightly. No waist articulation. Actually, no, I take that back. It does have waist articulation. Ball joints at the hips, swivels at the thighs, more than 90 degrees at the knees for transformation, but only when you open it up, though. And he does have no other points of articulation in general. You can store the weapons on his hands if you wish to, so it pretty much works the exact same way that we've seen with the Skydive mold. And now move on to Guy Hawk, which is using the air raid mold. Outside of, once again, what we've seen with, same thing with Felbat, it's pretty much the same we've seen with the other Ailerbots, so you pretty much get the clear idea how this particular toy will work in vehicle mode. We'll now quickly go on to the transformation. And now we're looking at Guy Hawk's robot mode, and I think even though it's a brightish, almost pinkish color, it does look really nice for the actual mold, and I think it turned out pretty good for a updated version of Guy Hawk. He does include 2 weapons, once again. It's the standard 2-barrel gun we've been seeing so far with the set, and obviously the giant handgun component, but it's still really nice to see a consistency, I guess, at least with this particular set. The head is on a ball joint. It can look up quite a bit, thanks to the mold in general. He does have ball joints at the shoulders, with a pretty decent amount of articulation. Single joints at the elbows with the swivels as well on the biceps. He does have waist articulation, ball joints at the hips, more than 90 degrees once again with the knees, thanks to the transformation, but that's about it for Guy Hawk. We'll now move on to the 2 tanks. So first we're going to take a look at Iron Bison, which is obviously renamed from Kill Bison due to the same reason what we had with Killbat, and it's pretty much what we've seen with the Brawl mold. It's not that much different outside, obviously, the paint and some of the new details that we've seen in general with the toy. He still maintains, unfortunately, the single joint at the barrel cannon, and I really wish the Brawl mold had the ability to spin the turret, but unfortunately, once again, it doesn't. So now we're just going to quickly go into the robot mode. And now we've got Iron Bison in his robot mode. I'm going to say this off the bat, the only reason why I have a problem with this set is the fact that this particular head on my copy here, for some reason, decided to split open. Now, this particular piece is not supposed to open up like that, and I think it's something to do with the fact that it might have degraded over time when they were using the mold, since these new horns caused it to actually split open, and I find that rather distressing. Articulation-wise, the same thing we've seen with the Brawl mode, and it's the same limited articulation we've seen. It's got that inner shoulder joint like this due to transformation, and you can move the shoulder up and down like that. He's got ball joints at the elbows, but no other articulation there. He has a 360 waist joint, ball joints at the hips, swivels at the thighs. The same knee articulation we've seen. This time we got, once again, the pivots at the feet, and the head can swivel 360 and look up and down due to the inner joint once again. He does include the same pretty much weapons we've seen, but this time in a black color. So we're just going to quickly plug these on, and you pretty much get the main idea outside of the new head and the paint scheme. You're going to not get much different in terms of an actual figure on the shelf outside of it being Iron Bison. So now we're going to move on to the final tank, and then go on to Thesaurus. And now move on to the final tank, which actually did not have a name change unlike some of the other characters in the set. This is Drillhorn. Now what's interesting is that this particular tank is reusing the TFCC exclusive combiner of Predicus, which is using the ram horn actual drill piece. And I think that's kind of interesting that they reused this for a close-on retail figure. Outside of it, it's exactly the same we've seen with the other tanks, so we're just going to quickly go on to the transformation. And now we have Drillhorn in his robot mode. What's cool is that he actually has a single horn to represent a rhino, so this is a little different than what we've seen with some of the other new head sculpts, which allowed the earpieces to actually move outward. He does have the ability to hold on to the actual drill weapon on his back as an actual handheld weapon, and if you wish to, you can store these as well as separate weapons. But I'm just going to quickly plug it in together since now one hand is currently being used. So that's still pretty awesome. Same articulation we've seen, same swivels at the head with some movement up and down there. Same separate joint again with the shoulders, swivels. Same ball joints at the elbows. Same waist joint, same ball jointed hips. Same joints at the knees, same swivels at the thighs, and same pivots at the feet. So it's pretty much the same we've seen with the rest of the Brawl type molds. So now we're going to move on to the main component, Thesaurus. And now move on to Thesaurus, which off the bat, this particular figure is a total anomaly. Just looking at the head sculpt, it's clearly based on Desarce's Dragon Mode head, but the colors itself mainly resemble Liokaiser, which is the character that's actually missing in the set. It also has a bit of Jaguar's colors thanks to a lot of the black components, and especially can be seen when combined into Liokaiser. So this is kind of a mismatch of several different paint schemes, and it just turns out very bizarre. Articulation is the same we've seen with Skylynx, with the same movement in the wing components. You can move it up and down and open up and close the outer wings. He does have the same swivels at the neck, the same double joints at the neck with the top part being articulated and the bottom part as well. He does also have the ability to open and close his mouth as well. He has this another joint inside which allows it to extend outward and so on due to transformation. Same ratchet-like joints at the front part of the legs and a little less one in the back. Same swivels at the back leg. Same pivots at the feet on both sides. And it does have the same articulation in the tail. So you're pretty much going to get the exact same kind of things you've seen with Skylynx. First, we're going to quickly transform it into his jet mode. And now Desarce is in his jet mode. Now this particular mode is pretty useless, and it's pretty much just a convenience of using the Skylynx mold, but overall I really don't think this mode has really any point of existing. It's, I guess, a cool colored jet, but you're not going to get a whole lot of difference when compared to what we've seen with Skylynx. So this is pretty much all you get. It doesn't have the wheels as normal, and you can plug in the weapons on the side if you wished, but there isn't a whole lot you're going to get with Desarce in this mode. Now we're going to move on to the combination. Now I have to say, Liokaiser fully combined is a massive beast. I think he looks really awesome, although it may look like a lot of the colors may clash from each other. I think it turned out really nicely, and in just terms of how it looks, it's pretty close to what Liokaiser is. Obviously, Liokaiser is missing two components which also made up the original G1 design, but I can make do with what we have here in general. The only thing that actually does bother me is that this particular part of the head is supposed to be green, but they decided to put it in a black color, and I think that's really distracting since it's not accurate to the original animation model. It also has the aforementioned arms micron, so you can transform it since it is in the bird mode. You can transfer it into some kind of claw weapon, which we're going to quickly do. It looks something like this, and you can store it onto the arm as normal. What I like to do, since he does have this double-barrel gun in the G1 design, I'm actually going to connect the guns onto the arms micron, and while it's not accurate in the slightest in just terms of how it looks, it's pretty close to what he actually included with the original toy and what he used on the show. So you can store the gun into his hand. Okay, there we go. So it looks something like this. So you can kind of replicate exactly how it looked like in the design. These pieces can be put onto his hands, but on the instruction booklet and a few other places, it tell you to actually put it on the shoulders, which I guess look okay, but the only problem is, the only reason why they look out of place is because of where the placements of the actual two components go, making it more asymmetrical than it needs to be. But it does what it needs to do in general. Articulation-wise, is exactly the same if you combined it with the Skylynx. The head can swivel 360, but it has no points of articulation outside of that for the head. He does have the inner joint using the Skylynx leg joint, but it does kind of break up the look. So pretty much the only main joint you're going to get is this inner joint here in the shoulder, or the same joint here with the ratchets with the combiner ports. He does maintain the same waist joint, which is now being repurposed for the elbows and the arms in general. The big hand-foot guns can also be used once again for articulation, and you can switch the sides as normal. And he doesn't have any waist articulation, but he has really good ratchets in the hips. So you're going to get pretty tight movement there without the figure actually falling on you. You can swivel these pieces as normal if you wish to. You can bend the knee if you wanted to. So he does have the knee joint, so that's really nice. It's a little hard on mine, so it's kind of hard to get into, so there you go. He does have the knee joint. However, in order to technically make it accurate to the G1 design, while outside you can swivel the ratchets as well here. Apologize for being a little problematic here. But you can swivel the ratchets if you wish to down here on the leg. And you do have pivots on the feet due to how the weapons are like, but as I mentioned earlier, you can actually, having a problem with that as well. Seems to be a problem with me in general with combiners where the hands don't like to stay in the port too well. It's probably just the weight of the weapon that causes it. But I'm just going to quickly reattach the weapon. So now it's got back into position. But anyways, what you could do actually to further replicate the design of the G1 character, what you could do is turn these components around and then swivel the feet into place forward. Since on the design of the original character, these pieces on the tanks were actually onto the side rather than looking front and back. So it looks something like this. It does make him look a little more taller than he needs to, but at least it is accurate to how the original character looks like, and this is exactly how I'm going to display my Liokaiser on a shelf. So I think it turned out really nicely. Obviously, it does have a lot of cheating going on since it's missing the main two components to form the main body compared to his original release. But the overall look of the character looks pretty accurate to the Liokaiser if made into an updated form. So I think this is recommended for those who are a fan of the character, and your best bet is to quickly snag it up as soon as possible since this is actually released for last year, so at this point in time I'm unsure exactly how long it will last online. The set also includes, as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video, the character card that we've seen with the other characters in Combiner Wars. It's pretty much the same we've seen on the box and also with the poster, which we'll look at now. The poster is actually really nice looking, and if I had somewhere to laminate it, I would definitely laminate it or put it in some kind of frame in order to display it, since it's a really nice poster. But overall, that's pretty much what you get with Liokaiser, and I highly recommend picking this set if you are a fan of the character. While it does have a lot of cheats going on from here and there, I think they did a really nice job overall. Anyways, please comment and subscribe, and check out Hero Club and Hero Taku. Also check your Twitter under Darkon633, and don't forget to check down the other channels down below. Please check the little bell at the bottom of the screen in order to see my content as soon as it goes up, and I'll be back with more Transformers reviews and more, but for now, I'll be seeing you too. Bye.